Hey again everyone, it's been a long time. This video is about the hidden history of the euro, the reason behind such a plan, and its implications. As usual, I would ask for you guys to research and double check the facts, especially for this video since I'll be name dropping a lot. Let's get started. This story begins around 80 years ago. First, you have to understand that until the French Revolution, it was the kings and rulers that held the power, and not the people. After the revolution, states began to appear, and with it came laws that were made by the states. But for the first time, it was the people that validated those laws. But people like Richelieu, for example, didn't just disappear. Instead, because of this, they were forced to take a more occult position, behind the scenes. As I said, it starts 80 years ago with people trying to reinstate the absolutist elite that ruled humanity for millennia. And it begins with 5 men spread amongst Europe and the US. They are Walter Lippmann, a writer, Edouard Bernays, the father of propaganda, and Robert Schuman, Jean Monnet, and François Pérou, 3 French economists and statesmen. Most of you, if not all of you, should already be familiar with these names. If not, pause the video and Google them right now. To give you an idea of who they are, Pérou and Monnet are the main brains behind the Franco-German alliance of the 1930s, otherwise known as the Treaty of Lisbon, that you see still standing strong today and still ruling Europe to this day. Bernays is considered the father of public relations and propaganda. Their first focus was to remove once again the power from the citizens, going so far as to state that the people are an ignorant mass and ball-breaking outsiders that need to be controlled and led by the rightful elite. These 5 people are the main figure responsible for the birth of consumerism and the culture of mass media visibility. 2 powerful tools which purpose was to dumb people down and to make them used to ideologies that will keep them imprisoned in a vicious cycle and lead them to degeneration, completely destroying modern Western population and castrating them, rendering them completely passive. So, in the 1930s, they understand that to completely eliminate the states, you need to create a structure that holds power over the state, hence the birth of the European Monetary Union. And it seems it was a success, since nowadays the European Constitution overrides countries' constitution, whilst European parliamentaries hold no decision power whatsoever and are just there to give the illusion of democracy. We skip to 1943, where François Pérou first proposes the idea of the euro, created to take the monetary power away from the states, which is an essential condition in order to destroy them. Meanwhile, in the US, thinkers funded by Rockefeller Foundation, the Coors Foundations, the Holland Foundation, the Atlas Foundation and so on begin to structure the ideological thoughts that will in turn be sold to the universities and future managerial class. Likewise, the Adam Smith Institute, the Institute of Economic Affairs and the less known Mont Pelerin Society continue to do the same in Europe. With the plan to destroy the states well on its way, we get to the 60s with the rise in America of Milton Friedman and Karl Brunner. It is to them that we owe the wrong idea that public debt and inflation are to be feared, that somehow they are a threat to the people and the states, and they continue to infiltrate universities. It is in the same decade that Friedman founds the Chicago Boys. It is worth noting that Friedman was a very close friend of Augusto Pinochet, just to give you an idea. Another foundation worth mentioning is the Heritage Foundation, which brings us to the 70s, and to its founder Edwin Fuller. He understands that there is the need to simplify these ideologies in order for the politician to push them, which is where the concept of lobbies come from. Then comes Lewis Powell. He was a lawyer and associate justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. He wrote the 11-page report called the Powell Memorandum, which followed Fuller's steps. He urged to colonize all the editors that publish economics books so that these ideologies could end up in the universities. We are now in 1975, when Samuel Huntington, Michel Crozier and Joji Watanuki are charged by the Trilateral Commission to write the next report, called The Crisis of Democracy, of which aim was to push governments to assimilate their population to the aforementioned consumerist cultures. Between 1979 and 1983 is when the agenda is truly found in power, with the elections of Ronald Reagan in the US, Margaret Thatcher in the UK, François Mitterrand in France, and Helmut Kohl in Germany. You might ask yourself, how is it possible that from the end of World War II to 1980s, no one realized that their nations were being destroyed in front of their eyes? Remember those 2 economists, Karl Brunner and Friedman, and their 2 greatest inventions, public debt and inflation? 2 elements of modern economy that everyone is aware of. These 2 ghosts public debt and inflation paralyzed the states, literally cutting their legs from fear. You have to remember that full occupation and increasing national wealth is possible if a nation is sovereign over its currency, simply by spending at a deficit. Public debt, in layman's terms, is a hoax. The state never has to repay it, and it's not the debt of the citizens, it is simply put the citizens' wealth. Let that sink in. And inflation is not a problem either. Japan has over 200% public debt. When have we ever heard of a Japan in crisis? Singapore and Iceland both have over 110%, and yet they're still flourishing. Hence why the euro had to be created. The public debt of a nation with a sovereign currency is nothing. It can metaphorically be erased at the press of a button. The problem with the euro is that no nation really owns it. Instead, it is printed and distributed, so to speak, by the European Central Bank, which is governed by its executive board, which is made of nominated members instead of elected ones. They are nominated by agreement between the heads of government of the Eurozone countries. Its current president is the Italian Mario Draghi, another name you should already be familiar with. And this is the end of part 1. If you have any questions, just ask them here or on Twitter. Please remember to double check everything, correct me where I've made a mistake if I did. Use adblock, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. Bye bye guys.